It's another edition of the bullet list. But this is an important one because it's a first time for us, Bob. What is it?
We've got a most amazing country venue. We're going to be joined by Samantha Vaughn. She's the director of Dewsall Court. It's a wonderful property in Herefordshire, in England.
Which I can't say the name.
Which you can't say, but I can.
Hera. I'm not even.
Don't.
And Stuart's here. Stuart Mitchell with Catch the Mice.
Yeah, he's back again.
He is. And this actually is a really cool thing for us because it is the first time we're having a proper destination and property.
Yes, and we're off to a really, really good start.
So let's go ahead and get him in here.
Welcome back to the bullet list. And today we have Stuart back again. And we also have the lovely Samantha from Dewsall Court.
Hello.
So how are you guys doing?
Extremely well.
Good, thank you.
Wow, we're all full of energy today.
Cool.
Yeah, right as soon as you hit record. But we should say we did actually try and do this a couple of days ago, but modern technology was not working for us. So we kind of had to do it this way, but it works, and I'm actually really excited to learn a little bit more about your property because it is one of those things that I don't want to pass under every meeting planner's radar because it is really cool. So Stuart, kick us off. Tell us how you guys met and who you are.
My name is Stuart Mitchell. You've known me before. I've been on here a few times. So Stuart Mitchell, I'm the managing director of a company called Catch the Mice. Historically, I've been a representation company, i.e. a freelance sales director, really promoting beautiful privately owned health properties and destinations all over the world to UK meetings, well, actually now global meeting planners. That all changed during pandemic. I then went into the virtual market, and I represent 2 virtual events platforms. But I wanted to reintroduce you to Samantha Vaughn, who's the director of an amazing property called Dewsall Court. Sam and I worked together for years and years and years, years ago, to be perfectly honest, and we're collaborating again. So it's nice to introduce you to Sam. So over to you, Sam, to give us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. So yes, we met when we first opened the business, which was 12 years ago. This was my family home. I grew up here from the age of 10, and it was completely and utterly derelict. There was no garden. You could see up to the roof rafters. It had been derelict for 30 years, having had quite an interesting history before that. And my parents bought it, loved it back to life over many years, and we lived here as a family for a very long time and had a brilliant time. And then my father sadly passed away, and my mum was only 50, and we were both ready for a challenge in life, and we decided to set up a family business, which is always a nice thing to do most of the time. And so we started it in just after the economic crash, just after the big 2008 scenario, and thought, goodness, what is that going to be like for us? But actually it worked well. The corporate market was a little low in those days because you couldn't be seen to be splashing too much cash back then on looking after the staff and things. So the wedding market went quite strongly for us. But over the years, that sort of evened and leveled, and we're doing a lot more private and corporate events as well as the weddings, which has been great. So that's where we are, how we got to where we are. And Stuart helped us early doors with his business partner back then in PR and corporate representation, which was brilliant. And actually some of those people that we met even back then still come and visit us now. So that's a good thing, yes. Lovely clockwise events in particular. We love it when they come. They have very exciting stays. So that's where we're at.
It's one of those things where I love properties that are a little bit unconventional, and yours is for a corporate market. And I think, but where the weddings go, right, can be interesting places for corporate planners. We just have to do a little bit of I don't know, we have to think a little bit differently, right? Because it's not, you're not going to have a ballroom like the Hilton. You
So
know?
we don't have a ballroom like the Hilton, but what we do have is a really cool barn space that actually when we were originally open, we kind of made it work for the fact that we wanted to do, weddings was the market that was available to us post-economic crash. So we had to make this barn work. So it had no electricity, no running water, no loos, no bar, nothing.
Wow.
But somehow we built the business on that. We'd put all the infrastructure in for every event. 5 years goes down the line, we've really built the business, it's now viable, and so the bank are prepared to back us to make this barn all singing, all dancing. So we then ended up with a soundproof dance floor on there, a really cool bar, fantastic, super cool loos, which are really important. Super cool loo is important. A really extensive kitchen, top of the range kitchen, so we can, our food is really very, very important to us, and something we get very good feedback on. And then all these retracting doors all the way down. So you have this gorgeous view, completely sort of secluded view of the Herefordshire, very English countryside. You can open the entire wall up so it can be indoor, outdoor. So we do have that kind of ballroom space, but as you say, in an unconventional way. And it's separate to the house, but just a tiny walk from the house.
We should probably tell everyone where you are in the UK. So that's probably a good point. So yes, you're based in Herefordshire, and for those people that don't know, because I know you have a global audience here, Herefordshire is to the west of London, about 2.5 hours, something like that, west of London. Probably about on the Welsh border, absolutely. About half an hour, 40 minutes north of Bristol.
An hour, I'd say, 40 minutes.
So what's the best airport? Is it Birmingham,
Bristol, or Cardiff?
Okay.
Those three are the best ones. But to be honest with you, I mean, when we fly, we often fly from Heathrow. It's not a biggie to get to and from Heathrow. It's very straightforward. But it's a couple of hours.
And I think, a lot of corporate audiences, know that, right? Like, before we actually started doing this, we were talking about the property in Canada that has, it's a 3-hour ride. You land in Montreal and you have to go north. It just takes a little bit of logistics planning, right? You're probably going to want to bring everybody together, put them all on a coach, and bring them all down.
Yeah.
Rather, not an Uber.
Not an Uber. No Ubers in Herefordshire.
But even so, it does sound like you've got some fairly good, public transport connections.
Mm-hmm, we do.
And
we're only 6 miles from the city. We're so secluded. But and I tell you what's all around us, 1,000 acres of, have you come across the Duchy of Cornwall? You probably, which is Prince Charles's sort of land that he owns all across the country. And so 1,000 acres of Prince Charles's Duchy of Cornwall land is surrounding us. So we're very, very secluded, but we're only 6.5 miles from the city centre, which is quite handy.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's really cool. So, all right, we're going to go down rabbit holes here. So you could actually have a corporate group there and then do, take people into town for activities, dining, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
all of that. Like I say, our food is fabulous, so you wouldn't need to go too far for food, but yes.
Well, and I did actually have a question on that because we were talking about the barn, and Stuart, you let me know when you're ready on that because I did see it pop up. But so you guys are doing all your food preparation there. You're not having caterers bring it in.
No, we used to do that, but it was definitely economically better. But also, we are really good food. We're really into our food and drink. So many people are, aren't they? But to actually bring that as part of, we've set this business up to enjoy our working life as much as to, earn. And so it's really nice to be doing things that are really special to Mum and I. And she's over there. So we're very much into cooking. So it's a great thing to have. And we just had a meeting with our head chef actually. He was saying, "I'm just blown away, Jane and Sam. I'm blown away because I constantly seem to get with every wedding we have or event that we have keeps coming back to us saying that the food was second to none." So without sounding like I'm bragging, I'm pretty chuffed about that. And it's not always the easiest thing to do. So.
And you also have some amazing china. Your mum gave me a gift of some china, which I've still got, and I drink my occasional little bit of coffee out of it.
I do remember that. Yeah, yes, it's yeah, she's good at sourcing. We always say that she missed her trick in life. Really, she should have been a interior designer. But yeah. That's
So,
her thing.
Stuart, you ready for me to pop that up?
I can show some photographs and some images just to give you an idea, a bit of a flavour of it. Sam, if you can talk over it, that'd be great.
Oh.
Let me know when we're up. There we are.
Oh, this is the entrance going in now. This is this is a great shot. If you can stay on this for a minute, I love this one because it really shows sort of the patch of where our area. So we've got, like I say, once you go beyond that, you're into countryside and lots of bridle ways. You can walk for 2 hours without hitting a road, or you can get to a pub after 2 hours, by the way. But the rest of it, our bit is much more sort of contained with this sort of oasis of green and lushness. So we've got various barns, and the party barn actually you can't see because it's nestled in the trees a bit further along. But yeah, it's lovely.
It does look like an island of green. It's just this little area just set aside. It's amazing. Look, I love it.
And the thing about that, I tell you what's really special about that is that because there is so much farming around, from beyond that, all the wildlife gets attracted into our little patch. So we get the most incredible wildlife around, and we do all of our gardening in as organic and sustainable way as possible. That's hugely important to us. And so we get lots of lovely little hedgehog families and woodpeckers and all that kind of thing.
So how many rooms total do you have?
We have 11 total, so we're not huge. We're often better fitted for smaller, sort of private. When you sort of top tier level meetings over a couple of days, particularly beginning of the year, got to make our strategies for the year, that sort of thing. But there are ways of bulking that out with nearby accommodation. The rooms are all bespoke, all completely different. This is where I'm sat now, actually. This is our conservatory. That's really great for dinner.
It is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, this is one of the main rooms. This is the Dewsall suite, as we call it. That bed looks tiny there, but it's massive. It's an emperor bed. You can lie across it as well as long.
Wow.
Sam, I've often talked about the emperor bed many times. It wouldn't fit in my house.
Yeah,
No,
there's baths like this in this house as well that don't fit in many.
I just want to know how they got it in.
I don't know, actually.
You must have built it inside. I mean, you just take the bits in, and then the carpenters work, and they build it there and then, knowing it's never going to leave.
Yeah. These are the barn rooms, a little bit more modern in look, but they're lovely too.
Wow. Well, and for planners, right? There are many times when you'll be doing a larger event, and you bring in a board, you have a board meeting, or you have something that's ancillary to the actual big event that you're going to have. This is the perfect place, rather than bringing all of those the board members to wherever it is, to be there for an extra 3 days before the actual conference or event you're going to have. Why not take them somewhere like this, and then go on to the other event? Yes, there is a little bit more logistics in that, because you're basically planning 2 different events at 2 different venues. But it does make for a much better attendee experience, especially for those folks. They're not stuck at that same box hotel in a city for 10 days. They do have a chance to go somewhere like this, which will refreshes them, recharges them, will make them more engaged in what they're doing.
We did
sorry, Sam, go on.
Oh, I was only going to say we did a really interesting one like that a while back. I think it was Hyundai and Hitachi. They were the 2 companies, and they were doing something with a power plant in Wales. So it was Japanese meets Wales, and the brief was that we had to bring these 2 cultures together and then play out this weekend here for the top tier board, fusing Wales with Japan. You would be amazed. There is quite a lot that Japan and Wales have in common once you start drilling through everything. For example, dragons and seaweed were quite high on the list. But yeah, those kind of things is very exciting for us as well, to be creative around those events, which can sometimes be, I'm not saying they are often, but sometimes can be a bit sort of starchy, and we like to have that ability to be a bit more creative.
What I love what I've always loved about your property is how green it is, and how you are at one with nature. And I think for the last 2 years, I've done a lot of work with Eventwell, the mental health charity for the event sector, with Helen Moon, and I've been a huge advocate for it, and trying to get people outdoors and actually walking in the countryside and smelling that grass and smelling the smell of the countryside, because everyone seems to have been locked away for such a long time, and you've got all this open space. It's amazing.
Oh no, it's heavenly. It's true. And also then to go, we have this incredible views then of the Black Mountains, or I've just got into wild swimming. I don't know if anyone else got into that, but the ability to nip off down to a beautiful castle with this sort of river pool within it and go wild swimming, Wim Hof style. Does anyone know about that?
No.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah.
You need to go and do your studies on Wim Hof. Anyway, so there's all these things to get into nature, as you say. It's really important. Oh, this is fun. This is the fire pit that has become quite an iconic thing. Our friend made it out of a tractor, actually. And it gets a lovely big blaze, and everyone sits around and toasts marshmallows.
That is gorgeous.
It really is. So so if we look at rooms like this, right, or is this the barn?
This is the barn, and you can get 170 seated in it if you use the dance floor. We prefer around 120. That's our favorite, but obviously it depends on the needs of the client. And then, but that's banqueting. So then there's significantly more for ordered, what's it called, theatre style or.
So if we were to take surrounding accommodations into account, it could be done, right? If you wanted to have a certain select people that stayed here, you could use the other properties that are in town. Again, it does make it a little bit unique. It's not for every group, right? But if you have the right group that is up for a little bit of adventure, it can be really cool.
Oh, this is super cool. This is our after party den. So this is only just, I don't know if you'd have seen this, Stuart. It's only been in the last.
I haven't seen this. No, not at all.
You would love it. So we have where the cellar is. We've made that into this sort of little party space, so that after hours, the people who are actually staying in the house can all sneak down there. There's a dance floor, a little lighting rig. You can jack in your phone. There's a bar, and we can stock the bar or have someone down there serving you drinks or whatever. And you can dance till dawn if you want to in there. We have some fun there when we have staff parties, I can tell you.
We'll save that for
managed doing the worm across that stone floor,
Yeah, you don't have to explain any further. We can save that for another episode. Yeah.
Oh, well, we have some really great people who come and do these fire hearts and things. They can do all sorts. They can do Phoenix or whatever, and it's like fire. And everyone gets their photograph taken with them. You
know what? You do that with a corporate logo.
That'd be brilliant. They could totally do that. Totally do that.
Sam, this is actually a personal photograph from the launch night of the barn. I can't remember how many years ago was that. 7 years?
We called it Raising the Barn. In fact, that guy on the right there, he's from Chicago. That's where he was born. Not far from where you are, Keith. Is that right?
No, I'm actually, I am on right up on the north edge of the city.
I'll ask him whereabouts he was, and I'll see him later. And then my brother, yeah. So there's the barn, looking all fabulous.
So I'm actually glad you had this picture, right? Because in my head, because I like to go into these things not that way. My reaction is for seeing it for the first time, but when an American thinks of a barn, that is not what we picture.
We're a bit more down to earth with our, descriptions, probably.
Because that is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, it is lovely, and it's a happy place. Good vibes. I tell you what we have just had built, which you won't have seen, at the end of the barn. There was this beautiful big tree that had this swing in it, and very sadly, the major branch that it was coming off started to need to be, it needed to be lobbed off because it wasn't in good nick. So we were very sad because this tree is so epic, and so we've had a tree house built in it, which is really cool. So it's got almost like this sort of platform at the bottom, this proper staircase that wraps around the trunk, and then a nest at the top. So there's all sorts of ways and means and creative ways of using that for events as well. We put on a really really cool gin bar, or some people do speeches from the nest if they want to.
That actually, I was sitting in my head and I was going, well, what could you do with?
Do you see it?
Oh yeah.
Very cool.
It's very cool. Sorry that wasn't on the show, but thanks, Mum. Mum said gave me that.
All right, hang on. So
Sorry, Keith, there we are.
no, that's good. I love the property. I think it's very, very, very unique, right? And I think nowadays, in order for events to be successful, right, for so long, and especially coming out of COVID, right? Coming out of COVID, I don't think that groups are necessarily looking forward to going back to 2019, right? 2019 events were all the time, everywhere. And we were just ending up in box hotels, in boxy ballrooms. And, whereas up until 08, when AIG and all that happened, and then the financial crash, we were starting to see a lot more unique, cool venues. And then they kind of ruined that. Where I think that's what people want now, right? People are coming out of COVID. And I think everyone is hungry to get back to events and get back to meeting in person and doing things in person. But I don't think that people want, and I'm sorry, Sheraton, but I don't think that people are ready to go back to a suburban Sheraton hotel to sit in a square room. I always love to tell the story. I went on one fam trip one time to and I won't even say the destination. Went to this lovely, beautiful destination in Europe. And they were so intent on taking us from hotel to hotel and just showing us the same flippin' ballroom that's in every single hotel. It's like, show me what's outside, right? Show me the beautiful property and what's around it, and I think that this is the type of experience that corporate needs, right? It's a little bit more creative. You've got, for planners, you got to think a little, right? This isn't one you can just check the boxes and move on, but with a little extra work, you can have something that is one of a kind.
Well, two things on that is, first of all, we have a really strong team that can support that planning process. And I think that's really important for these properties that are a little bit more unique, or you do have to go that extra mile to work out how it's going to fit. I think you have to rely on the local knowledge and the people who are really practiced at putting those events in place for that particular property, because they're not, a ballroom in a box or whatever. But the other thing from a employer's point of view is that it's such an employees market post coronavirus that you have to put more into how you're treating your employees. I think you've got to think about making things more special. If they are going to have to travel and go on a mission for the sake of the business, well, yeah, make it more interesting, or make it an experience that's going to be more developmentally, going to give them a little more growth or whatever it might be, or make them feel more, like they're being cared for. Exactly. And that I was talking to all of our team yesterday. We had a very big meeting. We were talking about the fact that we spend so much time in our jobs that actually we've got to make sure that the working environment is a very positive place to be. And I think there's a very important level of responsibility that sits on an employer's shoulders for that. Yeah.
I think there's also an element of bringing smaller groups together rather than the whole team. I think there's little micro pockets. I've called them hubs before when I've talked about presentations, but you want to come together in a small group to then get the message out potentially to a wider, the full audience of your corporate team. That might be on a virtual platform, because the cost of travel, the cost of accommodation is going to go through the roof. So I think it's about little treats, small little regional areas, regional meetings, all being linked up, and Dewsall is perfect at that.
One of the sorry, go ahead.
I was only going to ask you, with your knowledge, do you think there's still a big role for virtual then, alongside? Do you think that's the shift, that now it's sort of going to be fractioned?
Personally, I'm quite biased, obviously, because I now cover both real, in person, and virtual. But I'm Keith, Bob, what's your thoughts?
Oh, I got a thought on this one, and so bless my meeting planning community, but sometimes we have our heads in the sand. And meeting planners want everything to go back to 2019, and they want to go back to in-person only, and they don't want to have anything to do with virtual or hybrid or whatever. But the reality is that isn't what the attendees want. Attendees want virtual and they want hybrid. Not all the time. They missed going to events too. But I think what people really liked about the COVID times was people realized that they can actually attend an event, they can get their education, they can get whatever they need, and they don't have to miss Timmy's soccer game.
Yes, such a good point. Yeah.
Right. And so, they do want to travel. Yes. If the opportunity came to go to, a destination like this, they're going to jump at that destination. Right. They're going to jump at it because it's unique. It's something you normally wouldn't do on your own. Right. So they have the opportunity to go and experience this. Whereas that event that is going to be in, Kansas City, Missouri, again, in just a big box hotel, on that, they're kind of like, whatever, I can watch virtually. I think I do think virtual and hybrid is here to stay. But it doesn't diminish the importance of in-person events and great destinations.
Echo that wholeheartedly. I mean, I'm a live events person, advocate. Always have been, always will be. But I have a feeling that we'll be at a position where about 70 to 80% of the events will be in person. However, those 25% that will be virtual will be carrying the footfall. So I think numbers wise, I think majority will be online, but the actual in-person events will be smaller. So there will be more of them, but there will be a place for 20% being virtual.
One thing the COVID thing has actually brought to light is the mental health issues, the importance of taking care of people who are neurodiverse or have health issues, and also sustainability. The idea of sort of everybody flying from everywhere to go to one place for a couple of days and then going home again, that no longer works. Yeah. So the virtual and hybrid side of things, they're the tools you use to make sure everybody's inclusive, everybody can see what's going on, and people can have access to the content for quite a long time afterwards, so they don't miss out.
So I'm laughing, and I don't want people to think I'm laughing at the mental health comment.
Me. Don't laugh at me.
We actually had a client years and years ago. It was before they were a client. They actually did an incentive trip from the United States and Europe to Australia. And they flew their people down there for 5 days. So you've got 1 day of travel, 1 day of travel back. So they were there for like all of 3 days. That doesn't even give you time to adjust to the time zone. So that's what that made me think of that, and that's why I was laughing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The sustainable side of do you travel, do you stay at home? The tools that we now have that have been created or been used throughout the COVID experience, they're just going to make sure people can actually attend and take part without worrying about if they're eco-friendly or not, or they're going to have a health issue, or if they have mental health issues, are they going to find the whole experience just far too much? So basically the answer is, they're tools to use, depending on who you're working with and what the situation demands.
So I know we're coming up on a half hour, but I have questions. So planners, they get there, right? We know that you guys are doing. We know how many rooms we've got. What the max capacity of the barn is. Audio visual. So if I'm a planner and I'm coming in, screens, projectors. Do you work with an outside AV company? Do you have AV there? Can I bring my own? How's that going?
You can bring your own, or we have a company that we work with very regularly. And the good thing is, even though we are in the middle of nowhere, because of this link to the Duchy and how the Duchy of Cornwall and how they're very much involved with community and all that, and sort of raising business in rural areas, they have put all this infrastructure in, all this fiber fiber optic infrastructure at Dewsall and into the village and surrounding, which means that we have really, really strong connection. We're in the top 1% of the country, even though we're in the middle of nowhere. So we're extremely lucky.
Wow.
So that should all be easily handled.
So for planners out there, think bigger, right? You can have a smaller meeting here, but you can broadcast it to the world because it's
Absolutely right.
No problem.
So
That's music to my ears. Keith.
I mean, during COVID, when we obviously weddings was some of them still managed to take place, but they had to be tiny weddings wise. But some of the family, for example, in Australia, they weren't able to travel, so we were doing that quite often. They were linking up the whole ceremony that way.
Sam, you're probably unaware of it, but I actually did a real proper hybrid wedding when we opened up very shortly. We did it on Intellego, a beautiful 5-star hotel in London. And myself and it was an event agent partnered up, and one of our colleagues got married, and her mum was in Austria, I think it was, and couldn't make it, and was beamed in. Actually sang a lovely little song for her daughter's wedding. It was really gorgeous.
That's lovely.
Yeah, so we did a hybrid wedding, but that's whole hybrid wedding stuff.
Well, we keep talking about the COVID thing. So, and we know that 2019, 2018, all that before was great. Then we went through all of the last 2.5 years where it's been absolutely terrible. But how's the recovery been?
Good question, actually.
So how is the demand going? Is it getting more and more every day, or how's it going for you?
Intriguing. We've developed some software, actually, some venue-centric planning software with another 5 venues. And I was talking to another one yesterday, and we were saying that initially we had obviously no events, and then suddenly we had to shoehorn. We only had a few cancellations, actually, which was really gratifying. And the way that we had handled our bookings was really careful, because no one knew what was happening, etc. And so we wouldn't take their extra their payments, because people's venue payments are scattered across a lead time, and we stopped. We just held, we really worked with everybody very carefully in a good way, and then we had to shoehorn 64 events into 7 months, which most of our events are at least 2 days, sometimes 3-day events. So it was quite full on for us with our team. So that was quite busy. And then, but this last year, we still had 17 carryovers event-wise, and it's been intriguing. I think there's been a little bit of caution, still a little bit of caution, but things are starting to, in the last, I'd say 2 months, maybe a month actually, 6 weeks, sales have literally gone whoop like this. But for a couple of months at the beginning of the summer, we went really quite slower again, and it was a bit, what's going on here? But I'm not quite sure how to pin that, whether that's next to a COVID thing, or whether it was the rise in all of our costs in this country, and everyone just sort of went, hang on a minute, let's just see where this is all going. But yeah, things have really picked up again now, and next year is looking quite exciting.
Yeah, it is. You're right. There was a dip. And I would assume it had to deal with all of a sudden prices got so high on everything that everyone kind of did take it. But it is up. I mean, we're company-wise for us, we're all the way out into 25 and 6 now.
I know people are booking so far ahead. It's crazy.
It's great. You know, for venues especially, right? You need to know that you have stuff years and coming up. I mean, you have to in order to plan. It's
a nice part of our business model, being able to know that that's all, that's all ahead of us.
Yeah, it's really hard to run a business like that 3 months out, right? It's sorry to talk to you, but when the difficulty is that obviously with it all being so shady with inflation and things at the moment, and costs are going up and up, quite regularly, but you want to hold prices to a point. You don't necessarily want to be suddenly slapping another load of, hundreds of quid on because they've chosen the lamb, whatever, I don't know. So it's quite hard when you've got those very long lead time events to make sure that the pricing is correct. That's a challenge, I think. Oh, there are lots of planners now that are rushing to book out so that they can secure pricing of today.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. So, guys, thank you both. This was absolutely amazing. I think that I've learned about a really cool new destination, and I hope that it helps other planners. Bob, Stuart, any final thoughts?
I love the garden. I love the view of the garden behind you, Sam. It looks amazing.
If I can show you any more.
Oh, look at that. Oh, go blimey. I'm coming for a picnic.
There you are.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Like that, and I wonder why I live where I live.
I want to get as many event planners to come and see Dewsall as possible. I think Sam and I will tie in some dates to try and get some open days and that sort of thing. But we are going to do we are going to try and be a bit more sustainable. We're not going to be doing a huge amount of traveling. I'm going to be doing a lot of virtual showcases of Dewsall on the 2 platforms that I work with. And we will be at various trade shows. I'm at Vented in a couple of weeks' time. We'll be representing Dewsall there. If anyone wants to find out, that's on the 13th of September up in Edinburgh. So come and visit us there. We are also exhibiting at Confax next year, of course. And I randomly will be at the Event Tech Live show in November, which is an eventy techy event. But I also will be taking my portfolio of hotels and live venues and destinations with me. So it's that crossover. Maybe I should rebrand them, called the Hybrid Representation Company. I don't know. So that's what we're going to be doing.
I like that. Nice. I think it's a brilliant name.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, guys.
Thank
you so much. It's been great.
All right, and Stuart, I think we know you'll be back in just a couple of weeks. So,
absolutely, yes. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, both of you. And Sam, as always, a pleasure. Say hello to your mum. I know. Bring her on screen. She'll hate me for it.
I won't have it.
Brilliant. Fantastic.
Oh, brilliant.
Nice to meet you all.